Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Scott here, XRI FE. Hey, I wanted to post a video out here tonight just to kind of give everyone an update on some of the things I've been up to. Obviously, I've posted a lot of videos lately of X-Plane 11 versus Prepared V4. And I wanted to post another one here because my Dash 200 is slowly morphing into a Dash 300. So I want to talk about some of the changes here and why, but I'd also like to kind of solicit some opinions out there. Love to hear from, I got a lot of views on my last X-Plane 11 737-200 video. So I'd like to just do a really quick video, not a whole bunch of flying in this one, but just to kind of describe some of the changes. So I have a friend out there, RA Flyer. Many of you know him. He's got some brilliant videos out there, brilliant work he's done interfacing real parts, OEM parts, and he's got a 737-300 based on the IXEG 737-300 in X-Plane 11. And Rob's a good friend of mine. We've been working, he's been helping me on a lot of this stuff, putting it together. All the Arduino code that's involved in this, setting this stuff up, it's a lot of work. And Rob's been helping me, and his code is all based on the IXEG 737. He previously had done work on a 737-200 based on the FlyJ Sim 737-200 in X-Plane. And that's kind of where I was going. So when you look at my old videos, you can see all the parts from the 737-200. So recently, I had the opportunity through one of our developer friends to take advantage of using my CP Flight MCP that I had. It's a brand new one. I had it just in case I wanted to do the 737NG using Prepared and some of the aftermarket software and avionics suites that are available, as well as the aftermarket NIP and overhead panels. But that's aftermarket, and obviously we all know nothing beats OEM. It's just cool. You can smell the jet fuel on it. So really hard, as I've said to Rob many times, every time I think about going to Prepared in the NG, because that's what I'd have to do if I wanted to Prepared. My hands don't want to pull out the OEM gauges because they're just too cool. Really like to see this get done. With that said, a good developer friend of ours got the 737 dash. Well, this is I guess this is a Sperry autopilot model. This is the CP Flight EL series MCP, but it works great for a 300, and our friend programmed a plug-in for it to work with the IXEG 300, and it works brilliant. So if you're interested in that, shoot me a comment. I'll be happy to try to put you in touch with the developer and see if he wants to allow you to use the plug-in. I'm sure there'll be a fee for it. Good programming work doesn't come for free. I'm sure he'd be happy to help you for a little bit of monetary reward. But in any event, it's working here, and to interface the flight director and the autopilot for the 200, which is really cool looking, you've seen it in my other videos, would have taken quite a bit of effort, and I can shortcut that effort a little bit by going this route with the 300. So yeah, this is plastic. It's not OEM. It's a huge compromise, obviously. So that's one thing that changes if I go to a 300. You'll also notice that the AFDS displays and a 300 are much different. So you see there's a hole over there. I happen to have panels which would be this section right in here. This is a section. There's actual seams on each side. This whole thing can pull out. That section and this section over here, you can see the difference in color on the backing plates. But that whole section, those two are really for a 300 because they include the Dash 300 AFDS display. And these are little windows that flip, kind of like, I guess it would be like Jeopardy. They kind of flip. It'd be cool if I had Vanna out here flipping them for me. But anyway, that's kind of how they work. And they'll show you the various modes. And if you go and look at RA Flyer on YouTube, you'll see that working in his videos. So these two panels change in order to go to the 300. And if you go back to my other video, you'll see that the 200 has a little annunciator panel that gives you your modes rather than this. I did like the 200's marker beacon lights, and I still have a panel way over to the right where you see those kind of old school marker beacon lights. I really love those. Those are kind of like the same ones used in a 727, and I really love those. Unfortunately, this panel here, going forward in time, gives those up in favor of Corys. So these are your marker lights right here, and they're Corys. So it's kind of weird for me to have these here in the old school kind over in that far right panel. It's a compromise. This panel here, what's nice about it is it's got the larger airspeed gauge, which is a hole right now, but I do have it. It's the same as this one right here. So I have two of these. One of them's over at Rob's house because he was testing stuff for me. That'll come back and go into that hole. And Rob also has my other AFDS display, which will go in that hole and kind of complete that panel back out. So those two panels change. The engine instruments change. This panel right here, this is one panel. I'm going to zoom out. This is one whole panel here. Is not right for a Dash 300. The Dash 300 would not have this many round holes. It would have 6 round holes, and the EPR gauges will be down. They would be down here, and you would have some thrust reverser annunciators up above them. I kind of put some stickers over these plates that had the older JT8 placards on them for the 200. I put the CFM 56-3 labels on there just to make it look cooler. But these are all gauges that are good for a Dash 300. Now the vibration gauges, I put them in here, but they really should be over here. This panel is wrong. This one's wrong for a 300. The auto brake side is wrong. And it wouldn't have the reverser unlock Corys. These are the extra Corys. These are gravel protectors. But it would just say low pressure, oil filter, bypass, and it would be a start valve right here. The gravel protectors, I guess that's an option. I don't know if they ever had those on the 300. But the reverser unlock Corys would actually be up over here above the EPR gauge. Problem is I don't have that panel. Rob has an extra panel like this for the 300 that I can put in place, and it'll have the correct auto brake panel and the correct Corys up here. But what will happen is I'll lose those reverser unlocked Corys, and my panel doesn't have them right here. So if any of you out there in YouTube land happen to have the correct panel right here, and it starts here, right at the side of the CDU bay, and it goes over to the secondary instrument panel. So it's just this section. I mean, they cut them in all different spots. So some panels you may see where it's this plus this is one big panel, and this is a separate panel over here that's one big panel. But what I need is a panel like this that is more set up for a 300, and it would have 6 holes round and 2 square ones right here with the reverser cories up above. So if anybody has that panel and wants to sell it, please contact me. I would love to grab that panel. So there you go. So also with a 300, this altitude, setting the altitude here, you won't use this panel because that is done up on the MCP up here. So this needs to go, and a blank plate needs to be put up here, which is very hard to find because of the offset of the fuse fastener. So another oddball panel I'll have to find and discover in order to switch this to the 300. What else is different on the 300? Well, the rest of my panels will work okay, representing the 300 on the MIP. This panel right here is wrong. On the 300, it should really have flap inhibit, a separate gear inhibit, and I believe a terrain inhibit. So you have 3 switches here. Sometimes you'll see 2. You'll see a separated flap and a gear. Of course, I only have the single, so that panel right there is wrong in matching the IXEG. Other things that are wrong is the secondary engine gauges, the oil pressure gauges, I believe the temp gauges. Those are all wrong. This would be the correct brake pressure gauge, but there's a dual AB hydraulic pressure gauge that I really need to get if I really want to be right on. So a lot of things that could be different in here to go to the 300. The advantage of going to the 300 is I gain the CFM 56 engines, which are much more powerful, a lot more thrust than the Dash 200, and they have a unique sound to them too that is really kind of cool. The other thing that I gain is a more modern day MCP, an autopilot panel, and of course the auto throttle, the all-important auto throttle. 200 doesn't have an auto throttle. Going to the 300, I could be on cruise and go take a break, come back to the plane. It's not going to be all out of whack because I didn't sit there and constantly monitor the throttle numbers. So that's an advantage. It could be a disadvantage if you want to be an old school pilot and not be flying with everything automated. So there's that kind of trade-off there. I would have the advantage of being able to get that CDU working faster, as Rob and our friend who did the programming have it built for the IXEG to work. So I don't know if that would work with the 200 using Jack's FlyJSim-200. Recent reports say from Jack's, I saw some comments out there, he's abandoning the FMC in the next release apparently in favor of the built-in CDU FMC. I should call it an FMS. It's probably more proper. The FMS from X-Plane 11, the stock standard one. I don't know how good that's going to be interfaceable to this, what data refs will be there. So if I stuck with the 200, I'm taking a risk that I'll never be able to get that CDU working. Of course, a purist 200 would say CDU, forget the CDU. Maybe the SIVA is okay, but the CDU is getting a little bit too modern for a 200. Anyway, again, like opinions on that. It'd be nice to see some in the comments. I got a new flap gauge. My friend Phil out in California. Thank you, Phil. That's proper. The old one I had was from the 727, so I'm lucky to have that. And again, thank you, Phil. Moving on to the overhead. This panel is different in a 200. I have the 200 version. If you go and look at my other videos, I do have that panel. I can swap it out. This is more proper for a 300. The lower light plate, I've swapped it out. This is now more proper for a 300 with the engine start. Ignition switch in the middle here. That's not in the 200. Pretty easy for me to change that panel one way or the other. I have both lower panels. Moving up, everything else on the lower panel is pretty much the same. You can use the same stuff in a 300. You get up to the aft overhead, and I've added the IRS display unit up here, which is proper for a 300. I've also got the IRS panel here. I do have that switch thanks to a friend of mine. I've got to fix that panel. A couple other things over here. I've got to put some landing gear cories in here for the 300. The stall warning panel will come out. There'll be a stall warning test panel over there. The oxygen gauge isn't probably right for a 300, but it'll live. And then of course there's the PMC panel, which I don't have in here right now, that I'll still have to acquire. But other than that, the other thing is my pedestal. My pedestal in here is a -200 pedestal. Most of the radio gear is -200. To go to a 300, I really need to swap this out for a -300 pedestal. And I'm lucky enough, again, to my friend Phil out in California, a little dark over in here, but sitting there on the floor is a proper -300 pedestal. And I do have all the fixings for it. So there you go. That's kind of what I've been up to. The 300 would give me a lot of advantages because I don't have to code as much. Disadvantages, quite a few differences in panels. I really had the 200 kind of nailed. The panels that I have now don't really work with the 300 exactly. It's a compromise. And I guess one other benefit to doing the 300 is that the engine gauges that I have here will be much easier to interface right the way they are than using the older 200 style, which would require me doing some conversions of stepper motors and shaft couplers and have to make some things. Anyway, with that, I'm going to throttle up, listen to the CFM 56s from the IXEG. You hear them wind up. And there's that